Once you go to that college teaches you how to be that. And then you have a piece of paper that says you're supposed to do that now. And then you go and you look for a job that piece of paper gets you. And then they give you, okay, now here's the track you have for this corporation. And then you get, you have that what I call the talking heads moment where once in a lifetime he goes, how did I get here? Right.
Hey, I'm Pam Pryor, and this is the Cash Flow Podcast. We're going to talk about everything related to money in your business. Without further ado, let's hop right in. And I want to welcome you back to Cash Flow, friends. You know we're in the Know Your Map segment when you see a friend of mine up on the screen. And this is where we celebrate the power of relationships, those relationships that really shape our businesses, but also us as well. They're the ones that kind of sit with us when we learn from our failures and celebrate our successes with us. Might be mentors, might be people that were surprises to you when you met them in a hall somewhere. And today I have a very special friend with me who's a big part of my circle and my mind map that you know so much about. And this is Dave. Dave, thanks so much for hopping on. And the way we say your last name, because I've never gotten it right, is
Dave.
Is Dave. Perfect. This is Dave. And let me tell you a little bit about him. The reason I love him so much is that his bio officially says he's a corporate escape artist. And that is great. So many of us have left corporate, and a lot of us felt like it was an escape. So he's dedicated his entire business and time and personhood to helping people break free from those societal expectations so that we can really live authentically. His philosophy centers around empowering us to create roadmaps that help us realize our dreams, guide us, and really define our own individual paths, because there's no one path for anybody. And he's got that great background of navigating that corporate world, so he knows where we've come from. And he really knows, as I'm guessing all of us have, those feelings of being stuck and unfulfilled. So he has spent 20 plus years breaking free from that corporate grind and starting his own business, working with us, solopreneurs. And that's fueled his passion for helping everybody really get this same unstuck. So he emphasizes self-motivated entrepreneurship, which he calls, I love it. I love the way he makes up phrases, sovereignpreneurship. And it's all about really finding a balance between making enough money for our happiness and stability, but also living the dream life. So many times we leave one prison of corporate and create our own prison in entrepreneurship. And he really works to make sure people don't do that. He emphasizes adaptability as life changes happen, really building that resilience and discovering yourself as you move along. It's all about fulfilling our purpose on our own terms. He has a program that's been described as genuinely transformative. And I can tell you from my conversations with him, even those conversations are transformative. And clients, along with me, praise his ability to really inspire and motivate people, us, individuals, and his genuine care and support. I know him through a mastermind called Sims Distillery, where it's all about genuine caring and support. And he is the epitome of that. So that was a long introduction, but this is a really special guy that I'm so excited to have on my podcast. So Dave, thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah. I mean, really, when you get down to it, we all have a someday in our life. Whether we're still stuck in that corporate grind, that circus, that monotony, whatever you're feeling, if you're in corporate America, and we're like, someday I'm going to, fill in the blank. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to write the great American novel. Oh, I'm gonna learn how to play guitar. That was something I did recently.
I can tell from what's put up in your wall there.
And not only do I play guitar, but I collect weird old vintage guitars and odd guitars and stuff. So, but we all have these things that we've always wanted to do, and in order to do them, I say you need two things. You need money, which is the one that most people fixate on, but they fixate it on as it's a metric for gaining that success.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's just a resource. And then the other key resource is freedom. And so you need both of those in those seasons and chapters of your life where you say, okay, now it's time I'm going to leave corporate America, or I'm going to leave corporate America and build something that's going to give me time with my family, better time with my relationships, time for my hobbies, or time to do
Mhm.
those things that I've always wanted to do. And so that's the crux of what I try to do with people, is for them to understand, first and foremost, what do I want my life to look like? Let's
Mhm.
put your business idea aside, or your career transition aside, or whatever you're looking to do, and really talk about, what do you want your life to look like? Because once you know what you want your life to look like, then you can start understanding, how much money do I need? Because we all need
Mhm.
a certain amount, but it's different for everybody. And,
Yep.
and a lot of times, you'll see other gurus out there make 6 figures, make 7 figures, make 8 figures,
Make
make
more, more, more,
like
more, more,
right,
right? Without
right.
defining what more is.
Do you really even need 6 figures? You might only need 3 figures, because you've done really well and put money away and whatever. But it's more so, then success isn't even about the money. It's about maybe making an impact, or fueling your creativity, or whatever the case may be. So you really
Mhm.
need to know, what do I need for money, and what do I need for freedom, and when do I need to have them?
I
So if you're
love that.
earlier in your life and you're looking to start a family or buy a house or whatever, you might need to work really hard to build up a financial stability, financial nest eggs, something like that,
Parachute.
parachute kind of thing,
Mhm.
in case something goes wrong, all those things. But then if you just keep earning, you start sacrificing time and energy, and you don't have the freedom to do it. So
And it
now
becomes such muscle memory, I'm guessing, that we don't even realize that we're now just earning money because it's a habit as opposed to, a
or
necessity
your
anymore.
business, God forbid, is successful. Like the biggest thing that prevents freedom is a successful business, because we're like,
Yes.
this is going really well. I've got, clients pouring in the door. I've got, I'm scaling, I'm growing, I'm adding people. But guess what? If you don't work your need for freedom into that growth plan, that scale plan, then all of a sudden you have something that is often a worse treadmill if you've left corporate America than you have.
Mhm.
I mean, I think you said it in the introduction. We need to make sure that it's giving us the life we want to have.
Mhm. And that we're aware. I think the biggest thing I wanna unpack with you on this is that what you seem to bring to the forefront is our awareness about the life we wanna live. So, it's to me, do you find often that people haven't even asked that question? That we're really just kind of on some sort of path that's sort of a moving sidewalk that we may or may have not have influenced, but we never really thought about not what's our end game, but what's our journey game.
Yep. I mean, many people make the decision on what the rest of their life is going to look like when they're 17 years old.
I know that's crazy,
They
but
sit in their
it's
guidance
true.
counselor's office and they're like, "You're good at science, and you should be a doctor, or you should be a lawyer, or you should be an accountant." And this is the college you go to. And then once you go to that college teaches you how to be that. And
And
then
you're
you
locked
have a piece
in.
of paper that says you're supposed to do that now. And then you go and you look for a job that piece of paper gets you, and then they give you, okay, now here's the track
Here's
you live
money.
through this corporation. And then you have that, what I call the talking heads moment, where once in a lifetime he goes, how did I get here, right? So now you're like 25, 30, 40, 50 years old, how the heck did I get here?
So midlife crisis is actually something that's generated by the way we've structured our society, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
And that's your career track. Then you talk
Yeah.
about your personal track, which is
Ooh.
find somebody, get married, have kids, adopt kids, whatever you're going to do to have, if you want children in your, like society
Mhm.
tells us, we buy a house, we have a dog, we have a fence, we mow our lawn, we snow blow, we do all, depending upon where you live, you do these things. And that's why I love that song, because the guy wakes up and he's like, how the heck did I get where I
Mhm.
am? This is
Yep.
not what I really wanted in my life. And
Wow.
what I suggested to people is, what do you want that life to look like? And then let's start molding things to make sure that that's going to happen. So that
Yeah.
you're not just earning money for the sake of earning it, you're earning it so that you can have.
Yeah.
I
I
met
love this. I really, really like this because it connects us to we only get the one life, right? And if you wake up halfway through it or three quarters of the way through it and say, "Oh God, how did I get here?" I mean, you can still fix it. Don't get me wrong. You can
Yep.
anytime redirect your life. But what I like about this is you're not sitting there saying, "Oh, I've got this magic pill you take and everything changes." you say, and this is what really attracted me to what you have laid out, is you really say, okay, that's the goal, right? Here are all the components of that goal. But what's the path to get there? Oh, I don't have to be earning this much money, or I don't have to be working this many hours, or, I don't have to have 5 kids instead of 3, or in my case, 8 dogs instead of 3.
Yeah.
Um, it's not an empty promise, which is what I really like about what you bring to the table is a blueprint. And then do you coach people through implementing that blueprint
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah. So we talk about their life. That's the first piece. What do you want it to look like? Then we talk about what is, and I call it an earning stream. Because for some people, it's immediately quit your corporate job and start a business because they have that cushion, they have
Yeah.
the things in place where they can do that. For other people, it's a transition over time where they're maybe downsizing their career so that they can start this side thing. I've worked with and met people that are driving Lyft and Uber because they just need a little bit of extra. They can't go completely cold turkey on their own, start a business.
Yep.
They need something just a little bit stable. But so we talk about that, and then we talk about, is that earning idea you have actually going to give you the
Hmm.
money and freedom when you want it? Because
Yep.
a lot of times when you start pressure testing the idea, it might not earn enough money or it might not give you enough freedom. So we really need to work on that. So phase one is what you want your life to look like. Phase two is the earning thing that you have in mind going to give you that?
Yep.
And then the last one is, how do we create the action plan? And that's really where things start, because a lot of people feel like I've got to win the lottery, or I've got to have this lightning bolt come down from the sky. God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, has to, put everything in place for me to be able to do this. And what I said is, every single day you can make a micro little baby step. If you know
Hmm.
where you want to be, you can start moving towards that. So
I
you have
love
to know
that.
what your destination is, that life map. You have to know what the direction you think you want to take. That's the how are we doing the earning stream and how are we making the transition. And then you pick your trajectory every single day when you wake up. What action am I doing today that's going to lead me one step closer to that?
Okay, I love that. I've heard that before, and I really just want to reiterate that for the listeners. This is something that I'd forgotten all about till you just said it, and that is such an important thing to say to ourselves first thing in the morning. And I forget, and I'm so glad we had this conversation, because if every day we just do one thing that moves us closer to what our desired goal is in any one of the areas of our life, that's a good day,
Yep.
right? So, like I'll often go, oh, I really should walk today. Instead of saying, hey, if I walk today, that's one tiny little step, or many steps in this case, towards feeling healthier.
Yep.
It's just a very different approach to the same thing. And it makes a real difference in the morning when you just do that first thing. What's the one thing I'm going to do today that's going to move me closer to where I want to be? So thanks for that reminder. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
And learning, I learned to start I started playing the guitar about a year ago. And the first day I was really bad at it. And if I had wanted to be able to play like Jimi Hendrix the first day, I wouldn't be able to. But yet
Truth.
a lot of us as entrepreneurs want to be Jimi Hendrix right out of the door, right? And so, but
Oof.
I stumbled, I watched some YouTube videos, I talked to some people that knew how to play, and over time, 9 months later, all of a sudden I was strumming one day and I'm like, this sounds like music. And it's because every single day I picked up that guitar and I did something.
That is such a great metaphor for entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
I've never heard that before, but that's really brilliant. We do just stumble, try. We suck at it, then we get good at one thing, and we suck at another thing, and it's just learning and reinforcing and getting the hours in, getting the time in, and
And
that is a
marketing
real
and
good
sales is all
metaphor.
about that too, because you don't know what works. We talked to our friend Laurel. She's like 9 out of 10 ads I run don't do anything.
Yep.
And so that the act of just doing something every day is going to catch fire, and
Right.
you start to learn that works and that doesn't.
Yep.
And I do that. it sounds good. When I don't do that, it doesn't sound good, you know? And so you start learning that, you know? So whether it's picking up your book and
Yep.
reading through that, or it's, you know, I mean, Atomic Habits covers, if people have
Yeah,
Atomic Habits,
great book. We'll
great.
drop that in the show notes as a link because that's a really really good book about this too.
But that's it. And so really what I do, you said, do I coach people? Well, I help them build that plan, and then I make sure they're doing it every
Yeah.
day. You know, I work with them. I can customize basically daily planners, a 30-day planner, and each day has a different set of exercises that helps them if they have trouble prioritizing, if they have trouble
I
really
love it.
reflecting, if they so it's not just this cookie cutter, you know, you journal this and you do that. It,
Yeah.
and I also try to mix it up so that, because I have found myself is if I do the same thing every day, I start answering things the same way and I don't really think about it. So
Good
by
point.
mixing it up and giving them different ways of setting priorities, now all of a sudden it helps them to shuffle how they think about it, and you know, and we when we move forward. And so I work with them for 3 months, really building the plan, and then I coach them for 9 months implementing that transition plan
I
to
love
get
it.
them from where they are to where they want to be.
And I love the pedagogy here because you're really focused on what makes things change in our brain. What realigns those, pathways so that we think and start acting differently kind of by habit because those things you do in day 1 that are so much work by day 30 or 40 or 50, those are no-brainers now because you know how to do that chord if we take the guitar example.
Yep.
Speaking of guitars, so we're looking behind you. I want to go back to how we first met and I will never forget it. And we were both members of Steve Sims Speakeasy, and it's a mastermind, a very different kind of mastermind. You look at my feed or Dave's feed if you want to kind of see the weird stuff we do, but it's what it's done is it's created a community both there and in the distillery where we are all sort of rising tide lifts all ships. And we met in, I think the first time was in New Orleans. But
Yeah,
the
it was
first
normal.
time that I really like you jumped out at me was because you were sitting there with a bowler hat on.
Yep.
No, it was a top hat
Yeah. Yeah.
with top hat. And I thought that's just really intriguing. And I kind of watched you in the morning. We didn't get a chance to talk, but then at lunchtime we chatted and got to know you and kind of immediately connected and really hit it off. So tell me about the hat collection, number one, and number two, kind of what you get out of like that community, that speakeasy distiller community, or any other community that you're part of.
Well, the top hat started. I picked one up. I think it's this one over here, right behind me. I picked it up like a Halloween store or whatever, on a lark. And my kids always wanted me to dress up for Halloween, you know, with them. We could never
Got it.
just go trick or treating and be in our clothes. We had to dress up, and so like one of the years later, after I'd had this hat, I was rushing. You know, I'd just been doing something with a client. I got home, and they're like, "You need to dress up." And I always wore a vest and a sport coat. And so they're like, you know, you could do like steampunk, dad, just throw on a hat. And I, for whatever reason, I had a little bit of scruff. So I quickly went up and I made it into a goatee, which I also
Oh,
kept.
cool.
That's another 10-year, 15-year thing now that I've kept since then. But I made it into a goatee. I threw the hat on and we went out the door. And I didn't really know a lot about steampunk at that time. But I started investigating it more, and then fast forward to Comic-Con here in Providence, Rhode Island, and my son wanted to go, and Carrie Fisher was supposed to be there, and
Wow.
he wanted all of us to dress as Star Wars, and we had done Star Wars as a family before, and I'm like, everybody's gonna be Star Wars. Let's do like a steampunk twist on it. Well, that started the steampunk journey because everybody loved how we had done a steampunk interpretation of Star Wars. My ex-wife got us tickets to an event, a steampunk event, and then it just kind of spoke.
Went from there.
That's where the hat collection came from. And then the pandemic hit, and I used to use a virtual background, but this was always behind me because I had the hats in my apartment. And I forgot to turn on the virtual background one day, and my colleagues on the call were like, "Oh my god, that's the coolest virtual background." I'm like, "They're not virtual, but those are all
That's
hats."
so
They're
funny.
like, "Those are actual hats." I'm like, "Yeah, I have a whole bunch of them." And so I was going to Nashville to meet up with them for a mastermind, and they're like, "You have to wear one when you come." So I wore it, and I found it was an interesting thing because when I walked in the door, everybody knew who I was.
There you go.
So
That's the thing.
and Henry Sims talks to all of us about how we present ourselves. They wear black, all black,
Yep.
but it became that thing. So, and then I, changed my profile picture to having a top hat in it. And so it just became another piece. But it's funny because Steve, you talk about my last name, and it is Lubelczyk if people really want to say it.
Lubelczyk. There we go.
Um, but Steve calls me Top Hat Dave because he's like, I'm not attempting that last name.
Smart man.
And so it's become this brand, but it's not just like a shtick. It's who I am. And the more I wore it, the more I enjoyed wearing the top hat. And the more I'm like, no, it kind of fits my quirky,
I
weird
like it. Yeah.
And and that this guitar was a kid's guitar that I steampunked. So it's kind of a
Cool.
blend of two things that I'm really into now. So yeah.
That is awesome. I think that is one of the most important things is that when and if and as we build our brands to make it us. Like I was just telling you at the beginning before we started recording, I said, hey, my dogs may bark in the background. If they do, don't worry about it. It's now part of the brand.
Yep.
Because it's who I am. It's, it's what and hats are what you are. And you look great in all of them. That's the other really cool thing. Not everybody looks good in a hat. You look great in a hat.
Thank you.
And I think that's so much fun. So all right.
So the question was, what do I get out of the mastermind?
Yes. What is it about being with people and like, it's such a lonely experience that we have as entrepreneurs if we don't connect with each other. So I'm just curious kind of what your journey has been there.
So I've been in various masterminds over the years. I've been in ones that were very tactic oriented. You learn a lot of skills. You learn a lot of strategies, that kind of stuff. I've been in ones that have been very accountability oriented, or growth oriented, or personal growth, business growth, whatever. And what I liked about the Sims, why I left the last mastermind that I was in was that the person that was leading it was all about scaling. And I'm at a point in my life where I didn't want to scale. I like where I'm at. To go back to what we were talking about, I've figured out what I need for money and freedom, and I've built that business and that life. And I strive every day to make that amount of money and do those kinds of things and have that freedom. And so I was often at odds with the head of the mastermind and the coach, and the idea that he's like, you could be so much more. And I'm like, but I don't want to be so much more. And it was, so I kind of, after a while, I'm like, it's just this, I get it. And he's great. And if people want that, he's the person I would send them to. He's amazing, but it's not for me anymore. And so I kind of then was on my own for a while, and coaches should never be on their own. They should always have another coach.
Always.
So I was trying to coach myself and driving my good friend very crazy. And I also discovered AI, so I could talk to AI every once in a while too.
Oh, is AI a good coach? I haven't tried that.
AI is a good colleague to bounce ideas off of. And what do you think of this? And also, what would Socrates think of this? I've literally asked. I've put something in and asked.
That's a great one.
That other people have, But so I was kind of looking for a new one, not actively looking, but like I probably need a new mastermind, a new coach to be in. And I got an ad because, of course, Facebook reads our brains these days.
Of course.
I got an ad for this book called Go for Stupid, and you could watch it. And I watched about 10, I kid with Steve. I'm like, I watched about 10 minutes of it. I'm like, I can't listen to this guy anymore. I got to buy it. And because I actually just wanted to read the paper and be able to make notes, but I always say to Steve, I just couldn't listen to the accent anymore. For those of you that don't know, Steve,
he's a Brit, just for the record, folks. He's retained the British accent despite the fact that he's here and a U.S. citizen.
Yeah,
it's part of his. I think he would call it charm.
Charm, right? Yeah, and so I read his book, and I'm like, this guy's cool. So let me join his newsletter. And of course, immediately once I joined his newsletter, I got this because this was like early September, early mid-September of last year.
Oh, okay.
I got this email that said, "Hey, we're going to be in New Orleans in 2 weeks. Do you want to be there?" And I was like, the books Go for Stupid, and this sounds stupid, so let's do it.
Especially since I don't know if people know about the speakeasy, but basically he says, come to this hotel on this day. I'm not telling you anything else.
Yeah,
It
give me
could
your
be a road
money
trip. It
and
could
show
be a
up.
meeting. It could be in the case of New Orleans, we had a voodoo woman come in and really explain voodoo to me in a way that I'd never knew about it before. So we really got to understand it as sort of a religion as opposed to a, just witchcraft
Yeah.
kind of thing, which was really cool, an eye opener on that. And you just never know what's going to happen. So to do that on trust is in one newsletter is pretty cool.
Yep. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I walked in the room. I still didn't know I was there. But he talked about in the when I did go to the website, I talked about disruptors and people who
Yep.
think different, and I walked in the room and I very quickly learned that it was a bunch of weirdos like me. So this was good. And no one questioned the top hat thing. So that was another
Yep.
big piece. And
There's
so,
nobody weird in the room, like, because nobody's weird,
right,
like, because there's just no judgment.
right.
Yet
Yeah,
all of us are
everybody
weird in our own way, you know?
everybody's got their own thing, like
Right.
their own way of thinking different. And that's what I really loved about the group is that everybody in there was thinking different, trying to do different things, and weren't just kind of following the bouncing ball of society,
Mhm.
but not in a like revolution, like revolutionaries. Although
Right.
some of us are trying to change the world, but we're trying to
Mhm.
do it in a way that you know it is cohesive.
Yeah.
And everybody in that room was super supportive of what everybody was doing. And then the other one that I liked about it is that there wasn't in a lot of masterminds. There's this girl at the top who supposedly has got all the answers, and then everybody in the room is trying to prove that they all have all the answers and they got all their crap together and nothing is wrong with them, even though they're this week everything is falling apart because as an entrepreneur, especially a solo entrepreneur, everything's falling apart at least once a month.
At
So
least.
so but everybody in the room and I very early on, Steve's like, don't bullshit us. Like literally, if you've got a problem, tell us. If
Mhm.
like, and I love that, and
Yep.
that was a real thing, and so I was like, all right, this is a cool group. I definitely want to come to more speakeasies. And then, of course, they
Yeah.
talked about the distillery, and I was like, I think I want to be around these people.
More often.
And while there are the tactics in the distillery part,
Oh, absolutely.
there's the tactics. I mean, I say to people, the price of admission alone is Henry's tech tips once a
Oh
month.
god. Yeah,
Like
once a
just
month.
having him out there investigating all these things and then giving us the script on what to follow and what apps to use, like that's worth. If you don't do anything else but come to Tech
It
Tuesday
once a week, once a month,
a
right?
month, you will get your money's worth. Like
So
that,
true.
you know, and then you have access to great, experts and authors and people that they bring in on the other ones. And then there's the usual like accountability and strategies
Hot
and hot
seats
seats,
and
all the other things that you get. So yeah, so there's so many layers of that group. But I also
mhm.
like the fact that it's really just genuinely real.
Mhm.
People are really to an extent. Obviously, I can't have you be my CFO without paying you, but I can turn to you and go, I'm having this little problem, and you're more
Bingo.
than willing to say, oh, all right, we'll do this. Like I was having tech issues, and Travis, one of the people in the group, I was having
Yep.
on the call, and I'm on the backside of the Slack channel going, why is this crashing? And he's like, try this, try this, try this.
And it's fixed.
And I'm like, you send me a bill. And he's like, no, dude, like no big deal.
Yeah.
Now I can hire him to be my IT person, but if I've got a little problem, I can go to him,
Bingo.
and also the diversity. We've got a chiropractor, we've got IT, we've got coaches, we've got, authors, we've got
We
speakers.
get every age, and that to me, this is the big thing I think for any group, and then not just to speak about the distillery, but any group that people are part of. I encourage you as a listener, get involved with a group, but get involved with a group that's really diverse, and in age, in color, in background, in thought process, in profession, in like if you get that kind of a mix. What I've found is I always thought I had all the answers I needed for my business. But in reality, one thing that you might say when you're talking to somebody else may make me think about something completely differently all of a sudden. And if I weren't in that room listening to somebody very different than me say something, it wouldn't click. So I think that's a really important thing too, to surround ourselves with people we know, love, and trust, but also a lot of people who are very different than us.
Yeah.
And I think that's really kind of what's important as you look for masterminds or coaches to work with, or whatever you're doing there. Okay, we have to wrap this up, although I hate to. What is one thing that we can tell folks who are listening to do tomorrow morning when they wake up, other than the one you've already given us? I'm sneaking two out of you, that will help them really open up this question that you've put on the table for all of your clients about what is your life path? What's something I could do tomorrow morning when I get up to really put myself steadily into that question?
I would say ask yourself, what part of your life do you love, and what part of your life would you like to change?
Beautiful. And then spend time with it. Don't just answer quickly, I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
no, what part of your life do you really love and want more of, and what part
Yeah.
of your life could you do without, and how
What a
can you change
great
it?
exercise. And I'm going to do that tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact, because I really, really like that. And interestingly enough, I have a deck that I pull a card from every day, and I'm going to read this to you because it just happened today. It's a similar question. What is a happy memory of you with your caretakers, whoever they were, parents, adopted parents, not, non-family, and what was the most challenging? And those two questions kind of go together because they're probably that child is the thing that really first decided what you love to do, what you really enjoy, what brings you that childhood like joy. So
Yeah,
great advice. I can't thank you enough for jumping on. I will see you as always next Tuesday on the distillery.
yeah.
But thank you so much, and all of you listening, thank you. I'm just so grateful for you, and I hope that you like and subscribe here if you want more of these interviews where we get to know the people out there just like us who are struggling, dealing, building things in their own way. You're not alone, and that's what Know Your Map is all about. So have a great week, and we will see you here next week on the Cash Flow Podcast. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks so much for watching the Cash Flow Podcast with us. We want to bring more and more of this to you, so please like, share, subscribe, comment, so that we can keep bringing more of this content to you.